Do you see what these verses are telling us that Jesus is doing for us now that He is alive? Let me read for you again. 1 John 2 verse 1. It says, "My dear children, I write this to you so that you will not sin." God doesn't want you to continue sinning. He's already forgiven you. Jesus died on the cross for you, and He very much would like you and I to choose to live holy lives. But the reality is, we live in a sinful world where there are temptations, and we have a weak human nature that has an inclination to sin. And so the reality is, we still do fall into sin. But notice what it says. "But if anyone does sin, we have one who speaks to the Father in our defense, Jesus Christ, the righteous one." Brothers and sisters, this is a very important verse for you to know, because it will protect your faith from being destroyed by the lie of Satan that now that you've sinned, you've lost your salvation. So I would encourage you to underline this verse and to memorize this verse. You see, you were never saved because you stopped sinning. The reason you were saved in the first place was because you began to trust that Jesus would save you. And if you sin now, provided you're still trusting that Jesus will save you, nothing has changed. Jesus is alive and He will save you. Don't believe the lie of Satan that you lose your salvation every time you sin. You see, that's a wrong idea some people have, that when you sin, you're no longer saved until you confess your sin, and then you're saved again. If that were true, God would be giving salvation and taking it back from people. He'd be justifying or pardoning people and then condemning them, pardoning them, condemning them. But that's not the case. The case is, you're trusting in Jesus to save you, and you're continuing to trust in Jesus to save you every day, because you and I continue to sin every day. And we don't just need a Savior yesterday. We need a Savior today, tomorrow, and every day. And fortunately, Jesus is alive and is interceding for us, so we can have confidence that we will be saved. Now, I want us to look at another passage that teaches this very important principle. It's in the book of Hebrews. Now, we've just looked at Hebrews chapter 11 a few weeks ago. So if you're in 1 John, turn back a few pages to the book of Hebrews, but this time go to chapter 7, verses 23 to 25. Now, in chapters 6 and 7, the author of Hebrews is comparing Jesus to the priests that the Jews had. And he's calling Jesus our great high priest. Now, as you read this, and it talks about priests, please don't be thinking of the local Christian priests that you might have exposure to. This is talking about Jewish priests, and there's some similarity between Jewish priests and local Christian priests, but there is also some difference. You see, local Christian priests that you may know of in your town or where you live are people that serve God in a church, and they perform baptisms, they perform weddings, they perform funerals, and they teach every Sunday. But a Jewish priest performed a different role. A Jewish priest stayed at the temple and waited for people to come to the temple who wanted to be forgiven. And these people would come to the temple bringing an offering of a pigeon or a lamb or a goat or a bull that they wanted the priest to sacrifice to God, and they wanted the priest to intercede for God for them for their sins. The problem was, though priests or Hebrew Jewish people would go to a priest and that priest would intercede for them, after a number of years that priest may die and there would be no one left to intercede for them. They would have to find a new priest to now intercede for them. But in this passage, it's going to tell us that we will never have that problem, because Jesus is our great high priest and He's always alive to intercede for us. So please have someone read Hebrews chapter 7, verses 23 to 25. Verse 25 is another very important verse that I hope you will underline. Memorize it. It will help your faith stay strong. Let me read it to you one more time. It says, "Therefore, He is able to save completely those who come to God through Him, because He always lives to intercede for them." What does it mean by the fact that Jesus is able to save you completely? Well, what it means is Jesus can save you from your past sins. Jesus can save you from any sins you commit today. And Jesus can save you from any sins that you commit between now and the time you die, because He always lives to intercede for you. This is very important to understand. When you know this, then you will not be bothered by doubt about whether Jesus will save you or not. And your love for God will grow strong, because you will understand that provided you're trusting in Jesus to save you, He will always be there to save you. This is a perfect way to be saved. Jesus is always alive to intercede for us. I hope that this will make your faith strong, so that you won't begin to doubt when Satan jumps up on your shoulder and says to you that God won't save you anymore. Jesus is always alive to intercede for you. So I want you to take out your worksheet and look at the seventh benefit of faith in Jesus and fill in the blank. The seventh benefit is that Jesus will continue to save us. You need to put the word save in there. This brings to an end our discussion for today. It's been short, but I hope that this will make your faith in Jesus stronger. May God bless you as you grow in your knowledge of God's love for you.